The first time I saw her, I didn't even know her name. All I knew was that she moved like fire. Not the kind that flickers and dies, but the kind that devours. I was running late for my first day as a junior PR consultant for FC Vitória, Brazil's most talked about women's football team, when I ran through the gates and straight into a heatwave disguised as a woman. Sweat clung to her collarbone, her dark curls were tied back messily, and her eyes, those eyes, locked onto mine for just one moment before she jogged past, not even breaking pace. I turned, dizzy, too stunned to remember my own name, let alone hers. Later that day, during the staff orientation, I learned. Julia Ramos, star striker, national icon, face of at least 6 brands, and, as if the universe hadn't already mocked me enough, married. Married. The word thudded in my chest like a fist. I sat through the meeting trying to act like my entire body hadn't gone into meltdown over a woman I'd never even spoken to. Professionalism, I reminded myself. Detachment. This wasn't high school. I wasn't a teenager doodling hearts in a notebook. I had a career to build, a boss to impress, and I was not about to throw it all away for a crush on someone wildly, irrevocably unavailable. But fate had other plans. I was assigned to work on the club's new image campaign, Stronger Together, a series of interviews, behind-the-scenes videos, and player features. Guess who was the campaign's main face? Julia Ramos, of course. You'll be shadowing her for the next few weeks, my manager said, breezily unaware of the storm that had already started inside me. Coordinate her interviews, make sure the crew gets what they need, keep her on schedule. She can be intense. Intense. That word again. It followed her like heat follows summer. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you. When I finally sat across from her in the team's media lounge, with the camera crew buzzing around us and my heart hammering in my throat, I couldn't stop looking at the wedding ring on her finger. It was simple, gold, understated. Mocking. She caught me staring. "You're new," she said, voice low and steady, like she already knew what I was thinking. "I'm Isadora," I replied, barely able to breathe. "PR," she nodded once, her gaze not moving from mine. "You've got that look." "What look?" "Like you know this job's gonna get messy." "Is it?" "Always does." Then she smirked, slow, deliberate, dangerous, and turned her attention to the cameras, leaving me a trembling wreck in her wake. I hated her instantly. Or, at least, I wanted to. But hate is easy. It's clean. What I felt was something far more complicated. The days blurred into a blur of interviews, photo shoots, mic checks, and constant proximity. Julia wasn't just talented. She was magnetic. Every room tilted toward her. Every person leaned in when she spoke, and she knew it. But there was something else, too. A tension just beneath the surface, like she was holding back a version of herself no one got to see. I began to notice the little things. How she watched the sky before every match, like she was asking for permission. How she avoided talking about her personal life unless absolutely necessary. How her smile never quite reached her eyes when someone mentioned her wife, a well-known fashion designer with a perfectly curated Instagram life and an apartment in Sao Paulo that looked like a magazine spread. "You're good at this," she said one evening, after the cameras had packed up and the crew had left us alone on the field. The stadium lights cast long shadows, and we were sitting on the grass, a safe 2 feet apart. "At what?" I asked, not reacting. Reacting to what? To me. I swallowed hard. Should I be? Most people are. Maybe I'm not like most people. She looked at me then, really looked, and I felt the ground shift beneath me. "No," she said, voice barely a whisper. "You're not." I wanted to run, or kiss her, or both. But I did neither. I just sat there, heart racing, and reminded myself again. She's married. That night, I dreamed about her. Her mouth against mine, her hands on my hips, her voice, rough with something between hunger and regret. I woke up gasping, sweat clinging to my skin, and hated myself a little more. The worst part wasn't wanting her. It was knowing that, somewhere behind that careful public persona and that perfect marriage, she wanted me too. I could see it in the way her eyes lingered, in the sharp intake of breath when our fingers brushed over a shared tablet, in the way her voice softened when she said my name. But we never crossed the line. Not yet. Until the night we did. There was a moment, maybe 3 seconds long, where everything inside me screamed at me to get up and walk away. But I didn't. Because I'm not the kind of girl who runs. Not from things that scare me. And Julia Ramos, God, she scared me. Not in the way monsters do, but in the way wildfires do. You don't run because you're afraid of them. You run because you know they'll consume you. It started with a text. You still at the stadium? I stared at the screen in the locker room hallway, the team long gone, the lights dimmed to half. My fingers hovered, then typed back. Yeah. Why? The reply came in seconds. Don't leave yet. 5 minutes later, the door creaked open and there she was, still in her practice kit, skin glowing with leftover sweat and adrenaline, like she'd just won a war. She didn't say anything at first, just walked over, dropped onto the bench across from me, and let out a breath like she'd been holding it all day. Rough practice? Asked, trying to sound casual. Her eyes flicked up to mine, dark and unreadable. I didn't text you because of practice. My throat tightened.
Why then?
Because I needed to see you. Silence fell between us, heavy and charged. I didn't know what to do with that sentence. I didn't know what it meant. Or maybe I did, and just didn't want to admit it. Julia, I think about you, she interrupted, voice low. More than I should. More than I want to. My heartbeat slammed in my ears. I couldn't move.
Couldn't blink.
You're married, I said, the words like ash in my mouth. She nodded, slowly. I know. Then why are you here? Because I can't stop. Her confession tore through me, sweet and brutal. Every part of me ached to reach for her, to erase the space between us. But instead, I forced myself to stand. This can't happen. I know. Then don't make it harder. She looked up at me, something desperate flickering behind her confidence. You think this is easy for me? I think you've spent years getting everything you want, I said, voice shaking. And you're not used to hearing no. Her mouth twitched, half a smile, half a warning. Maybe. But I don't want everything. I want you. The words shattered me. I turned and walked out without another word, afraid that if I stayed even a second longer, I'd do something I couldn't take back. But fate doesn't let go just because you tell it to. The next week, the team flew to Argentina for friendly match, and I, of course, had to go too. 3 days of shared buses, hotel lobbies, early morning briefings, and media chaos. 3 days of pretending we were nothing to each other. On the second night, I walked into the hotel bar just after midnight, needing air, needing silence. Julia was already there. Alone. Whiskey glass in hand. Trouble sleeping? I asked, hating myself for even speaking. Only when you're not around, she said, not missing a beat. I exhaled sharply. You need to stop. So do you, she murmured, then added. But here we are. She gestured to the empty seat beside her. I sat. I always do. The next 30 minutes were a blur of tension-laced conversation. Jokes that weren't really jokes. Glances that held too long. Words dipped in longing and wrapped in denial. And then, come with me, she said, standing. To where? Just away from here. She didn't wait for my answer. She walked out of the bar and down the hall, and I followed. Like I always do. Her room was quiet, dimly lit, the bed untouched. She locked the door behind us. I turned to face her, my breath caught somewhere between fear and desire. Julia, I won't touch you, she said, voice hoarse. I just want you here. Why? Because I don't know how to feel okay without you anymore. That broke me. I crossed the space between us, not to kiss her, not to undress her, but to rest my forehead against hers. To just breathe the same air. To give her something I could name.
She held me like a lifeline.
Not tight, not possessive, just present. And I realized in that moment, I wasn't just falling for her, I already had. Every inch, every breath. We fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other in a bed that hadn't been touched until then. Nothing happened, but everything changed. The next morning, she was gone before sunrise, back to her room before anyone noticed. We didn't talk about it. We didn't need to. Something had shifted. We were past pretending. Back home, the routine resumed, but the tension simmered hotter. She brushed my hand when no one was looking. I caught her watching me across the gym. In meetings, she leaned too close. In interviews, she let her gaze wander to my lips. I hated it. I craved it. I lived for it. And then came the gala, the club's annual charity event. Formal dresses, paparazzi, flashbulbs, the whole circus. I wore black, backless, dangerous. Not for her, I told myself. For me. But when I saw her on the other side of the ballroom in a navy suit that hugged every perfect line of her body, I knew I was lying. Our eyes met. She crossed the floor like it was nothing, like no one else existed. You look, she stopped, swallowed. Unreal. You're staring, I said, voice breathless. Can't help it. Your wife's not here? She's in Milan. Convenient. Painful, she corrected. And you? Who are you here with? No one. Still think this can't happen? I hesitated. It shouldn't, but it already is. And that was when I felt it. The slow, magnetic pull towards something neither of us could stop. I should have turned away. I should have told her to back off. I should have reminded her of her vows, her wife, her entire public life built on being the perfect, untouchable icon. But instead, I whispered, "Meet me on the terrace in 5 minutes," and walked away before she could see what that decision had done to me. The night air was warm on my skin as I stepped onto the terrace. The city stretched out in golden veins below, 1,000 strangers living lives that didn't feel half as complicated as mine had become. My heart pounded so loudly, I was sure someone inside could hear it. Behind me, the music of the gala pulsed faintly through the walls, a beat that no longer had anything to do with me. I should have run. I should have turned around, gone back inside, pretended none of this had happened. But then the door clicked open, and she stepped out. Julia. Her presence wrapped around me like gravity, pulling tight, inevitable. She didn't say a word. She just walked toward me with that same look in her eyes she'd worn on the field, fierce, focused, hungry. Her suit jacket was gone, sleeves rolled to the elbows, collar loose, like she'd torn off the parts of herself that made her look respectable. My breath caught. "You came," I said, as if I'd expected anything else. "You asked me to. I didn't think you would." "You always think the worst of me," she murmured, stepping closer. "No," I whispered. "I think the truth of you, and it scares me." Her eyes dropped to my lips. "You scare me too." The silence between us pulsed. For a second, I thought maybe we'd just stand there, teetering on the edge of something catastrophic. But then she moved. Fast. Precise. And when her hand slid along my waist, when her lips hovered a breath from mine, I didn't stop her. I didn't even try. The first kiss was soft, hesitant, like an apology we were both too proud to give. The second was nothing like that. It was desperate. Deep. Hungry. Years of wanting, months of denying, weeks of pretending. It all collapsed in a single exhale against her mouth. Her hands were on my back, on my hips, in my hair. Mine were clutching at her shirt, dragging her closer, anchoring myself to something I knew I couldn't keep. I felt her sign to me, like she'd been holding her breath forever and finally remembered how to breathe. It was chaos, and it was perfect. But then the door creaked open behind us, and we broke apart like it burned. A staff member stepped out with a tray of drinks, barely noticing us in the shadows before turning right back around and retreating. I let out a shaky laugh. Julia didn't. "We can't keep doing this," she said, though her fingers still lingered on my wrist. "Then stop," I challenged, breathless. "Tell me you don't want me, and I'll walk away. Her eyes burned into mine. I can't. Then don't pretend you're not already in this. You don't understand, she whispered, voice hoarse. I have a life.
A wife.
A reputation. I've built everything on being untouchable. One wrong move, and it all crashes down. So, I'm a wrong move now. You're the only move I want to make, she said, and I hated how much it wrecked me to hear it. I reached up and touched her cheek. Then make it. For a second, I thought she might. Right there, in front of the entire city sky. But she stepped back. Not here, she said. Not like this. I nodded, even though it killed me. Then when? Tomorrow. After practice. My place. You live with her. She's in Europe for the next 2 weeks. I'll be alone. The word hung between us. Alone. As if it meant something more than just geography. I'll come, I said. Not for what you think, just to talk. Sure, she said, a smirk twitching at the corner of her lips. Just talk. And then she disappeared back inside, leaving me alone with a mouth that still tasted like her and a heart that no longer belonged to me. The next day was torture. Every glance from her across the practice field felt loaded, like we were sharing a secret too dangerous to name. Every touch, even accidental, lit me up like an exposed wire. And when practice finally ended and she tossed her keys at me with a whispered, "Wait in my car," I didn't hesitate. Her apartment was nothing like I expected. Minimal.
Sleek. Quiet.
The kind of space that looked lived in but not loved. I don't sleep here much, she admitted, locking the door behind us. We usually stay at her place in Sao Paulo. This one's just mine. Or was before everything. She poured us drinks. I didn't touch mine. Why me? I asked. Of all the people who throw themselves at you, why the one who tells you no? Because you mean it, she said, stepping closer. Because you look at me like I'm a person, not a brand. Because you call me out on my shit. Because you see me and still want me anyway. I shouldn't, I breathed. But you do. And then she kissed me again. Harder. Rougher. There was no hesitation this time. Just months of pent-up tension snapping loose all at once. We moved through the apartment like we didn't know where to land. Hallway, wall, couch, table, grasping, gasping, unmaking each other in every room we touched. And when she finally laid me down, hands reverent, lips tracing the edges of a body I no longer recognized as mine, I stopped thinking. About her wife. About the lies. About the risk.
There was only this.
Her.
Us.
Heat and breath and whispered names in the dark. After, we didn't speak. She curled into me like a woman desperate for a place to rest. I let her, even though I knew I shouldn't. Because love isn't always soft. Sometimes it's sharp. Sometimes it cuts you open and demands to be felt. And I had never felt anything like this. I woke hours later, the sun bleeding through her curtains, her hand still tangled in mine. And I knew there was no going back. I left her apartment just after sunrise, hair tangled, skin still tingling with the memory of her mouth, her hands, the way she'd said my name like it was a prayer she should know how to whisper. The hallway was empty, silent except for the echo of my own footsteps and the frantic rhythm of my thoughts crashing into each other like waves. Guilt settled in my chest like smoke, curling around every breath, but it wasn't just guilt. It was longing, terror, the kind of wild, aching clarity that only shows up after you've done something irreversible. I had crossed a line I could never uncross, and I didn't even know if I regretted it. She hadn't said a word when I slipped out of bed, just watched me dress in silence, her eyes following every movement like she was trying to memorize the shape of me in case she never saw it again. I didn't say goodbye. I couldn't. And yet, as I stepped out into the morning light, my phone buzzed. One new message. Julia, I can't stop thinking about you. Tell me you'll see me again. I should have deleted it. I should have thrown my phone into the nearest gutter and let the universe decide the rest. But instead, my fingers moved before my conscience could catch up. Tell me when. We didn't wait long. 2 days later, She showed up at my apartment under the guise of talking strategy for the next media shoot. But the moment the door closed behind her, there was nothing professional about it. We didn't even make it past the kitchen. Her hands were on my hips, my back hit the counter, and the sound she made when I kissed her like I owned her could have ruined me forever. We were reckless, hungry,
Desperate.
like we knew time was limited, and we needed to devour as much of each other as possible before the world found out. And we weren't careful. We weren't quiet. The first time she moaned my name, I knew I was addicted. I couldn't stop. Neither could she. We started stealing moments like thieves. Late nights at her place. Quick touches in the back of press vans. Whispered phone calls in the dead of night. The rush was intoxicating and terrifying. Every time she touched me, I felt like I was stepping off the edge of a cliff. And every time, I leapt anyway. But not everything could stay hidden. Whispers started. A teammate's lingering glance when Julia brushed my arm during a team dinner. A camera assistant asking if we were a thing after catching us laughing a little too intimately behind the scenes. Even my boss pulled me aside after practice one afternoon, concern creasing her forehead. "You're getting close to her," she said. "Be careful." "Close," I echoed, feigning confusion. "She's a client. A project.
She's also married.
And you're not invisible." The warning was clear, but it didn't stop me. If anything, it made the secret feel even more electric, more addictive. Still, guilt had claws, and they dug deeper every time I woke up tangled in her arms. "Do you love her?" I asked once, after we'd collapsed onto my bed, her heartbeat still hammering beneath my cheek. "Your wife." She was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, finally, I did. Once. And now?
Now.
I don't know. We're good at pretending. That's about it. Then leave. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Her body tensed beneath me. "It's not that simple." "It is," I said, sitting up, anger flaring sharp. "You don't get to have both. Me in the shadows and her in the spotlight. That's not love. That's cowardice." She sat up too, running a hand through her messy hair, eyes dark with something I couldn't name. "You think I don't know that? You think I haven't played every version of this out in my head, wondering how to make it hurt less? Then why not just choose?" She looked at me like I'd wounded her. "Because I'm terrified I'll lose everything either way." That was the first time I asked her to leave. And the first time she didn't. We didn't talk for 2 days. I told myself I needed space, that I was taking control again. But I couldn't stop checking my phone. Couldn't stop replaying the look in her eyes when I asked her to choose. And then, on the third night, she showed up at my door in the rain, soaked to the bone, eyes wild. "I can't do this without you," she said. "I don't want to." I let her in. I always did. That night was different.
Slower. Deeper.
We didn't rush. We didn't ravage. We just stayed. Held. Listened to each other breathe like it meant something. And maybe it did. Maybe it meant everything. But in the morning, I saw her phone light up. A message from her wife. A photo. A caption. "Counting the days until you're back. I miss you more than you know." And just like that, the fantasy cracked. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the screen, the illusion slipping through my fingers like sand. "You haven't told her," I said. Julia stirred, voice sleepy. "What?" I turned, phone still glowing in my hand. "You haven't told her."
About me.
About us. Her face twisted into something like guilt, something like fear. "I can't. Not yet." "Then we're done." She sat up, panic sparking behind her eyes. "Isadora, no. Don't say my name like that. Don't look at me like I'm your salvation when you're still sleeping in someone else's life. It's not that simple. It never is with you. I just need time." "I gave you time," I snapped. "I gave you everything. My silence. My body. My heart. And all I ever get back is half-truths and stolen nights." She reached for me. I stepped back. "Don't," I whispered. "If you want me, really want me, then you need to be brave enough to lose something for me." Her silence answered for her. I left before she could stop me. I didn't cry. Not when I left her apartment with my shoes half on, my heart half shattered. Not when I took the bus home instead of calling a car, letting the city blur past the windows in a haze of neon and grief. Not even when I stepped into my empty living room and dropped my keys like they'd burned me. I didn't cry, because if I did, I wouldn't stop. The truth had finally ripped through the illusion, and it left nothing but ashes. I had fallen for someone who could never choose me, and I had let her unravel me piece by piece, knowing all along I'd never be hers. The next morning, I showed up to work like nothing had happened. Professional, poised, eyes dry. I smiled through meetings, approved final cuts on the campaign video, even made small talk with 2 of the coaches. But when I saw her walk past the hallway outside the media room, flanked by teammates, laughing, her face hiding everything we'd done behind a perfect veneer, I felt like I was going to collapse.
She didn't look at me.
Not once. And maybe that was the worst part. Not the pretending, but the distance. The nothingness.
She didn't text.
Didn't call. The silence between us stretched so wide, I could feel it swallowing the memory of her. But she wasn't gone. Not really. Because every time I opened my phone, my fingers hovered over her name. Every time I tried to sleep, I heard her voice saying, "I can't do this without you." And every time I passed the locker rooms, the smell of grass and sweat and adrenaline brought it all back. Her mouth, her body, her betrayal. 3 weeks passed. Then 4. And I hated that I counted them like wounds. The club buzzed with energy as the championship approached. Julia was on fire, scoring, leading, performing like she had nothing holding her back. And maybe she didn't. Maybe I had just been a moment. A break in her perfect life. A secret she buried under jerseys and stadium lights. I was barely breathing through it when my boss pulled me into her office. "We're flying to Paris," she said. "International PR tour. Julia's the face. And she specifically asked for you to lead the media team." I blinked. "She what?" "She wants you there. Said she trusts you. That you know how to handle her." My stomach turned. "And you're okay with that?" My boss leaned back. "Look, I don't care what's going on. I care about results. And this campaign is working. The numbers are insane. The attention is real. So, unless you have a problem with it." "No," I said quickly. "No problem."
Lie.
It was the biggest lie I told since the night I let her into my bed. Paris was a blur of flashing cameras, champagne receptions, endless rehearsals, and interviews. She looked untouchable, regal, and yet every time she looked at me, her eyes betrayed her. There was longing there, regret, and something else. Something I didn't have the courage to name anymore. We didn't speak for 2 full days. But on the 3rd, everything cracked. The gala was hosted at a 19th century mansion, the kind of place where the past clings to the walls and the air tastes like secrets. She looked like Sin in a black velvet suit, her hair slicked back, her wedding ring still on her finger like a curse. I wore red. I wanted her to see me and remember everything she'd lost.
And she did. God, she did.
She cornered me in the library during the 2nd hour, away from the cameras and the polite smiles and the world that thought she belonged to someone else. "We need to talk," she said, voice low, breath uneven. "There's nothing left to say." "You don't mean that." "Don't I?" I stepped back, the fire rising in me now. "You don't get to walk back into my life just because Paris makes you lonely. It's not about that." "Then what is it about, Julia?" I spat her name like it burned. "You say you can't leave her. You say you want me, and then you disappear for a month like I'm just something you can switch off." I needed space. You had space. You had silence. And I drowned in it. She grabbed my wrist, desperate now. "I miss you. Every second. I'm sorry I didn't reach out.
I didn't know how.
I didn't know if you'd even want. You broke me," I whispered. "And the worst part is, I still want to forgive you." Her voice cracked. "Then let me prove it."
How?
I told her, she said. The air went still. "You what?" I told her about us.
About me.
about how I'm in love with someone who isn't her. My knees nearly gave out. You told her? She nodded. Her eyes were wet, voice trembling. I told her last week. I said I needed space, that I couldn't keep pretending, that I couldn't be fair to either of you. What did she say? She cried. She screamed. She told me I was a coward and a liar. And she's right. But I couldn't keep lying to both of you. I stepped back, heart slamming so loud I couldn't hear anything else. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want to come to you half-broken again. I wanted to be ready. Real. Honest. For once. My vision blurred. So what happens now? She exhaled. I'm moving out when we get back. We're separating quietly for now. She asked me to give her privacy. And I will. And me. She stepped closer. If you'll still have me, I want to try. Really try. No hiding. No shadows. The part of me that was still bleeding didn't know what to do with that. But the part of me that had been in love with her from the first stolen glance in the locker room, she stepped forward. I'm scared, I whispered. So am I, she said. But I'm more scared of never trying. And when she kissed me in that empty Paris library, I didn't stop her. I didn't care who saw. Because for once, we weren't a secret. We were the start of something that might just be real. We landed in Sao Paulo under a haze of jet lag and press flashes. The team was back in the country, and so was the speculation. The tabloids were already murmuring about Julia's solo apartment sightings and her uncharacteristically cold behavior toward her wife at the last charity gala. The headlines hadn't found my name yet, but I knew it was coming. Julia kept her head down, moving through airport corridors and security gates like someone who no longer belonged to any one place. She glanced at me once as we waited for baggage claim, one brief, wordless flicker of heat and apology that made my pulse stutter.
She didn't have to speak.
I knew what she was telling me. Don't give up. We're almost there. Almost. The word lived in my chest for the next week like a prayer I wasn't brave enough to say out loud. Back in the city, I threw myself into work. Revisions, scheduling, press management. Every hour was carefully packed so that I wouldn't think about the way my body still remembered hers, or how my apartment smelled like her perfume in the quietest corners. But she crept in anyway. Her name on emails. Her laugh echoing through training halls. The brief, charged moments when we crossed paths and had to pretend our bodies didn't know each other in ways no one else ever would. She didn't come to me, not at first. I knew she was giving me space. I knew the separation from her wife was real, slow, and complicated. But I also knew I wasn't waiting in the dark anymore. I wasn't the secret. I was the choice. And that changed everything. Then, one night, I got the message. Are you awake? 3 words. That was all it took. I buzzed her in without replying. By the time she stepped inside, rain slicked down her shoulders, eyes dark with something deeper than exhaustion. I was already moving. We didn't speak. I took her hand and led her into my bedroom like it was the only place we'd ever belonged. This time was different. No frenzy. No rush. Just slow, careful intimacy, like we were trying to unlearn every wound we'd given each other. She kissed me like it was a promise. She touched me like she was asking permission. And afterward, when our bodies were tangled under soft sheets and her fingers were brushing lazy circles into my hip, she said it. She signed the papers. I froze. Papers. Separation agreement. It's not a divorce yet, but it's the beginning. It's real. I turned to her. Her hair was still damp, her lips swollen. Her ring finger was bare. Why now? Because I couldn't stand being halfway in anymore, she said. Because I needed to do something that hurt. Something permanent. Something brave. And me. You're the only part of this that doesn't hurt. I pressed my face to her neck, inhaling the scent of rain and sweat and something softer, something new. Hope. People will know soon, I whispered. They'll talk. Let them, she said. They always talk. At least now they'll be telling the truth. But the truth had teeth. The very next morning, a photo surfaced. Blurry. Grainy. but unmistakable. Us. My hand on her back, her mouth too close to mine. A doorway, a shadow, a moment no one was supposed to see. The internet exploded.
Fans. Commentators.
Gossip blogs. Who's the woman with Julia Ramos? Where is Camila? Scandal or separation? I stared at the screen in horror while the headlines spread like wildfire. And then my phone rang. My boss. I answered with shaking fingers. You're in the center now, she said bluntly. You need to decide what kind of center that's going to be. Am I fired?
No.
But if you want to keep working here, you need to know the ground's shifting.
Fast.
And you either run with it or get swallowed whole. She hung up. I sat in my kitchen, phone on the table, heart in pieces. 5 minutes later, another call. Julia. I answered with barely a breath. Come over, she said. Now. I was at her place in 20. She opened the door with her phone in her hand, the photo pulled up. Her mouth was tight. Her jaw clenched. This wasn't supposed to happen yet, she muttered. I had a whole plan. A timeline. I was going to protect you. I don't need protection, I said. I need honesty. Then here it is, she said, stepping closer. I love you. I want to be with you. I'm ready for the world to know, and I'm not afraid of the noise. But I won't force you to live in it if you're not ready. I stared at her. This woman who used to be untouchable, unreachable, someone I loved in secret. Now she was standing in front of me, asking me to choose her in the daylight. I stepped forward. Then let them see. Let them know. Her smile was slow, real. She reached for me, hands warm against my waist, eyes full of everything we hadn't said. You sure? No, I whispered. But I'm sure of you. We kissed in front of the window. In front of the whole city. Let them watch. Let them guess. Because for once, we weren't hiding. We were rising. The photo didn't go away. It was everywhere. Screens. Headlines. Rumors crawling across every platform like wildfire no one could contain. By morning, the press had names. By afternoon, they had stories. And by night, the entire country had an opinion. Star striker Julia Ramos caught in secret romance with female PR rep, Isadora Mendez, homewrecker or heartthrob. Camila Silvera breaks silence after Julia's betrayal. I sat in my apartment surrounded by buzzing devices, unanswered calls, and the unbearable weight of knowing I had become a symbol in a story I never meant to be in. My inbox was flooded, some praise, some hate, but mostly noise. People dissecting my clothes, my smile, my body like they had the right. I wasn't a person anymore. I was a headline. And worse, I was hers. At least, that's what they'd decided. Possessive. Scandalous. The woman who ruined a national sweetheart's perfect image. And yet she kept calling. I'm not letting you go through this alone, Julia said, her voice sharp with fury when I tried to push her away. You didn't ask for this. They should be coming for me, not you. They're coming for you, I whispered. They're calling you a traitor, a liar, a fake. You think I'm the only one bleeding here? Silence hung between us for too long. Then she said quietly, would you rather I lied again? Pretended you didn't mean anything? No, I said. I just wish the world didn't have claws. Then we let them scratch, she replied. But we don't break. I wanted to believe her. But the next day, Camila finally released her statement. Not through the press. Not through PR. Through Instagram. A photo of her standing alone by a window, arms crossed over her chest, no makeup, no smile. The caption, love is never a betrayal when it comes from truth. But silence is. I wish them peace. I wish myself distance. The post had over 1 million likes in less than an hour. And every comment beneath it carved into me like a knife. He left Shakira for Clara all over again. Team Camila forever. I can't believe Julia would throw away her whole life for a PR girl. I turned off my phone. I didn't sleep. I barely ate. I felt my life shrinking, pixel by pixel, until I didn't even recognize my own reflection. I started canceling work events, avoiding the stadium. I told my boss I needed time off.
She didn't argue.
She just looked at me with that sharp, knowing stare of hers and said, "You need to figure out who you are outside of her, or this will swallow you." I didn't respond. I packed a bag instead and took a bus to the coast. An Airbnb on a cliff. Empty beaches. Silence. I left my phone on airplane mode. I stayed there for 3 days without speaking to anyone. I swam alone, cooked the same meals, stared at the sea like it could rewrite me.
On the 4th night, she came.
I should have known she'd find me. She always did. I opened the door in an old hoodie, salty hair, tired eyes, and there she was, winded from climbing the cliff stairs, hair pulled back, face bare, heart exposed. "I knocked for 20 minutes, she said. "I didn't hear it. Liar." I looked down. "Why are you here?" "Because you disappeared." I needed to breathe. "And I need you." My throat tightened. "You have me." "Then stop running like you don't." She stepped forward, eyes burning. "Let them talk. Let them scream. Let them hate. I'll take it all if you just stop disappearing on me." "It's not that easy."
"No," she said.
"It's not, but it's real. And I would rather have something real and messy with you than perfect and empty with anyone else." I sank to the floor. She knelt beside me. Her hands touched my face. Her forehead pressed to mine. And I cried. I didn't want to. I didn't mean to. But I did. All of it.
The shame.
The fear. The guilt. The wanting. And she held me through it like she knew exactly where every crack in me lived. "I'm scared I won't survive this," I whispered. "You will," she said, "because I'm not leaving this time." That night, we lay tangled in a tiny coastal bed, our limbs a mess of salt and warmth and memory. She told me about her marriage, about the slow death of something that used to be love, about the loneliness that fame had wrapped around her like a noose. "I didn't cheat on her with you," she said. "I left her long before you ever touched me. I just didn't know how to admit it. And now I want to live in the open, even if it costs everything." We stayed another 2 nights. Quiet days, gentle touches, long conversations with no time limits. For the first time, we existed without shame, without secrecy. And when we returned to the city, hand in hand, we were different. The press was still waiting. The stories still loud. But we were louder. She walked beside me into a restaurant. No hiding. No flinching. She posted the photo herself this time. Us, on the beach, laughing, my arms around her waist. The caption, "Not a scandal, just love." The internet cracked in half. But for once, I didn't care. They say the truth sets you free, but they never warn you that freedom can be brutal. We had come out of the shadows, stepped into the light, posted the photo, claimed the title, Us. And in the first 24 hours, it felt like the bravest thing either of us had ever done. Julia held my hand on the street. We sat across from each other at cafes, without flinching. She kissed me in the back of a taxi and didn't care if the driver saw. We laughed. We breathed. For the first time, our love didn't taste like guilt. But the world didn't soften just because we told the truth. Headlines sharpened. Trolls multiplied. Fans split into armies. Some called her an icon for loving out loud. Others demanded she retire. A petition started to suspend her sponsorship deals. One of the brands dropped her before the week ended. I watched her read the press release in silence, jaw tight, eyes fixed. "They said it wasn't the right image anymore," she said, voice flat. "That they need someone more neutral." My chest burned. "You're not a scandal." "They don't care. They care about money. You'll get new sponsors." "It's not about that," she snapped, then caught herself, softened. "It's just, I knew there'd be fallout. I just didn't think it would feel like this." I moved toward her, touched her wrist. "Do you regret it?" Her eyes flicked up to mine, dark and heavy. "Never. But some days I wish I could turn the volume down." The noise never stopped. My own inbox filled with interview requests, podcast invitations, editorials asking if I wanted to tell my side. My name trended on Twitter alongside hers. I was suddenly a symbol, either the villain or the muse, depending on who you asked. One morning, I opened my DMs to find a message from Camila. Just one sentence. "You'll never understand what you took from me." I sat on the floor of my apartment and stared at the words for over an hour. I didn't reply. What could I possibly say? That I hadn't meant to ruin anyone? That I hadn't expected to fall? That I still sometimes woke up in cold sweats wondering if I had done the right thing by choosing love over silence? I told Julia about the message that night. We were in bed, her face buried in my neck, our legs tangled under the sheets. She didn't move for a long time. Then, "She's hurting." "I know, but she's also not wrong." "I didn't want this," I whispered. "I didn't want to be the one who broke something. I couldn't not love you." "You didn't break us," she said quietly. "We were already broken. You just showed me there was another way to feel alive." But the past didn't fade. It lingered like smoke in the corners of every room. Even on the field, the tension bled through. Reporters began asking pointed questions during press days. How do you balance your personal relationship with your professional duties? Do you think dating your PR rep compromises your image? Do you worry about setting a controversial example for young fans? I saw the muscles in Julia's jaw clench every time. She answered with grace. Always. But it chipped away at her. I could see it. And worse, so could her teammates. There were whispers. Some friendly. Some not. One afternoon, after a closed practice, I heard it plainly. "She's not focused anymore," one of the midfielders muttered to another. "She's too busy protecting her little girlfriend to carry the team." I turned the corner before they saw me. I didn't tell Julia. Not that day. But I started pulling back. Not in the way she could immediately see. Our nights were still full of tangled limbs and whispered promises, but I stopped visiting practices. I declined to lead the next campaign. I tried to give her space to breathe, to shine, without the shadow of me standing in every photo. When she noticed, she cornered me in my kitchen. "You're disappearing again," she said. "I'm making it easier for you." "Easier for who?" she demanded. "You think I want space from you? I think you need to prove yourself again, and I don't want to be the reason they doubt you." Her eyes filled, slow and furious. "You think I care what they say? You have to care, Julia. This is your career. Your name. I won't be the reason it burns." "You're not the reason for anything except every goddamn moment I felt alive in the last year." My chest cracked open. "Then tell me what I'm supposed to do. Just stand beside you while the world throws knives? Pretend I don't hear them when they say I'm the mistake that cost you everything." She stepped closer, voice shaking. "You're not a mistake. You're the only thing that makes sense." "Then why does everything feel so hard?" I whispered. She pressed her forehead to mine, exhaled. "Because it's real. And nothing real ever comes easy." That night, we didn't make love. We just held each other. Quiet. Tired. Still trying. And when she fell asleep wrapped around me like armor, I stared at the ceiling and made a decision. I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to hide. I couldn't erase the past, but I could fight for a future. So I called my boss. "Put me back on," I said. "Campaigns. Content. Everything. I want to lead." "You sure?" she asked. "They'll come for you harder this time. Let them." A week later, we launched a new initiative, Open Play, a documentary-style series exploring authenticity, identity, and the pressures of being in the public eye as women in sports. Julia was the first episode, and she didn't hold back. "I fell in love with someone I wasn't supposed to," she said to the camera. "And I'm still learning how to carry that in a world that doesn't like complicated stories. But I'd rather live with the truth than die in silence." The episode went viral. Some people hated it. Some people loved it. But for the first time, no one could deny it was real. We were real. The internet moved on faster than we expected. A new scandal. A new face. Some other celebrities fall from grace. That's the thing about media storms. They rage loud, but they never last. And once the noise began to fade, we were left standing in the quiet that followed. Just us.
Raw. Real.
Untouched by anything but each other. The documentary series was a success. The campaign became a rallying point. Players across the country began sharing their own stories of identity, pressure, secrecy, and survival. Julia was hailed as brave, revolutionary, a game changer. And for the first time, I saw her walk into a room without flinching. She no longer tried to shrink herself into the mold the world had built for her. She didn't pretend anymore.
She was honest.
Grounded. Fierce in a way that wasn't about armor, but about truth. Do you regret it? I asked her one night as we lay on my balcony, a blanket wrapped around both of us, our wine glasses nearly empty. What we lost. She was quiet for a long time. Sometimes. I think about Camila. What we had. I think about the fans who left. The teammates who look at me differently now. I think about the brand deals, the headlines, the parts of myself I'll never get back. My chest tightened. And me. You, she whispered, pressing her lips to my shoulder, are the only part I do all over again, even if it broke me. My breath caught. I'm not asking you to forget who you were, just to let me love who you are now. She looked at me then like she'd never seen me more clearly. That's the thing, I say. I don't want to forget. I want to remember everything, because it brought me here. It wasn't perfect. Some days we still argued. Some days she closed off, old habits dragging her back into silence. Some days I felt the eyes on us everywhere we went. But we had tools now. Honesty.
Space.
Hands that knew how to reach, even in the dark. I moved in with her 3 weeks later. Quietly. No announcement. No photo op. Just my books beside hers. My toothbrush in her bathroom. My laughter echoing through her halls. We learned each other in ways we hadn't before. Not as escape, but as home. She cooked breakfast barefoot and off-key. I left post-it notes on her training bag. She cried in my arms after a tough match, makeup smudged, mascara on my chest. I kissed her forehead and told her she was more than wins or losses. We built the life. Not a perfect one, but one with roots. And in that quiet stability, something new began to grow. One night, we were out late, her hand in mine as we walked back from a little rooftop restaurant in Liberdade, and she suddenly stopped under a street lamp. I have something for you, she said. I blinked. What? It's stupid, she added quickly, nerves fluttering across her face. Not planned. I didn't do the whole romantic Sunset Beach thing, but I've been carrying it for weeks, waiting for the right moment. And maybe this is it. My heart started to pound. She pulled something from her jacket pocket.
Small.
Velvet. I froze. Julia, don't freak out, she said, holding up a hand. This isn't some big, traditional thing. I'm not asking for a wedding tomorrow. I'm not asking for a guest list or a dress or even a date. She opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple. Gold. Engraved on the inside with 3 words, no more hiding. I'm asking you, she said softly, to keep choosing me, day after day. Loudly. Honestly. Without fear. I want to build everything with you. Whatever that looks like. Whatever pace we need. Just stay. My throat closed. My eyes burned. You're serious. I've never been more serious. I looked down at the ring. It wasn't a symbol of ownership. It wasn't a performance. It was a promise. A declaration that we were done surviving in secret. That our love wasn't a scandal, or a phase, or a beautiful disaster. It was real, and I was ready. I nodded. Yes. Yes. Yes, Julia, I said, laughing through the tears now. Of course it's yes. She slid the ring on my finger with shaking hands. I kissed her like I couldn't breathe without her. And for once, I didn't care who saw. We went home. We fell asleep holding each other like it was the only thing we'd ever done right. In the morning, she kissed my ring. In the afternoon, we told her mother. At night, she held me in the dark and whispered, I never thought I'd be this happy again. I smiled against her chest. You haven't even seen the best part yet. She chuckled. What's that? The part where we get to keep choosing each other. Over and over. She pulled me closer. Then I will. And I believed her. I never imagined love would feel like this. Not loud or reckless or aching, but steady.
Full. Certain.
A kind of quiet magic that lived in the details. Her hand in mine during a grocery run, the way she hummed while brushing her teeth, the smell of her shampoo lingering on my pillow. It wasn't perfect. We still had hard days. Arguments over stupid things. Who forgot to close the window when it rained? Whether or not she could skip another physiotherapy appointment. But now, every fight ended the same way, with a soft apology and a tighter hug. Because the difference between us now and then was simple. We weren't running anymore. We were building. She returned to the field after the off-season with more fire than ever. The fans welcomed her back like a queen, and when she scored her first goal, she pointed straight to me in the stands.
Not subtly.
Not secretly. Just proudly. The camera caught it. My face. My smile. The way she winked at me like the entire world didn't matter. And for once, no one tried to twist it. The headline said, "Julia Ramos scores her first goal of the season and gives it to the woman who stole her heart." I cried when I saw it. Not because I was embarrassed or overwhelmed or afraid, but because I finally understood what it felt like to be loved out loud. We planned the ceremony for the following year. Not a wedding, at least not in the traditional sense. We didn't care about legality or spectacle. We cared about meaning. We booked a little inn by the coast where the sand was pale and the wind smelled like citrus. 20 guests. No press. No press releases. Just us. A circle of people who had stayed when the world had shouted. She wore a white linen shirt with the sleeves rolled up. I wore a silky dress that made her look like she was trying not to cry every time she looked at me. Our vows weren't scripted, just feelings. She said she used to think love was something she had to hide or filter to protect it, but now she knew love wasn't meant to be safe. It was meant to be honest. I told her I used to think she was a storm, impossible to touch without getting destroyed, but she had taught me that even the wildest thing could still be home. We kissed, barefoot in the sand, and the wind carried the sound of applause across the water. Later that night, we danced in the courtyard beneath string lights, our fingers locked, our wine glasses forgotten.
We didn't talk about the past.
We didn't need to. Everyone who mattered knew the story, and more importantly, they knew the ending. After that, everything just flowed. I accepted a promotion to head creative for the club's media division. Julia started mentoring younger players, giving private training sessions, and hosting confidence workshops for queer athletes. She cried the first time a 15-year-old girl hugged her after a game and said, "You made me feel like I could be both strong and in love with a girl. Thank you." That night, she held me tighter than usual and whispered, "If all of that pain led to this moment, her moment, then I'd live it all again." We moved to a quiet neighborhood with more trees than traffic. Our apartment had too many windows and a little balcony where she kept herbs she forgot to water. I kept fresh flowers on the table. She left coffee stains on my favorite books. I forgave her every time. Sundays were our religion. No work. No phones. Just brunch, walks, lazy kisses, her head on my stomach while she read half of a book and then abandoned it to nap on me. Sometimes we'd cook. Sometimes we'd just order pizza and watch old documentaries about people we'd never meet in countries we'd never visit. And always, without fail, she kissed me before bed like it was the first time. Like it would never get old.
Like it would never stop mattering.
Years passed like pages in a book we were writing together. And with every chapter, we became more ourselves.
Softer.
Braver. Quieter in some ways. Louder in others. We weren't trying to prove anything anymore. We had already survived the fire. We had already chosen each other in the dark. And now, in the light, we didn't need to hold on so tightly. Because we knew this was forever. One morning, I woke to find her watching me with that same look I'd seen the first day we met. Hunger. Wonder. Something close to awe. "You still look at me like that?" I teased, blinking away sleep. She smiled, brushed my hair back from my face. "Every single day." I laughed, reaching for her hand. "Why?" "Because you were the risk, she whispered, kissing my fingers one by one. And I'll never stop being grateful I took it. I closed my eyes and pulled her closer. Me too. The world hadn't been kind to us, but we had been kind to each other. And in the end, that was enough. Thank you so much for your support, whether it's by liking, commenting, sharing, or sending your super thanks. You make all the difference here on the channel. See you in the next video.